So here is the finished and sanded new ones. And now it's just time to seal them and epoxy them. This week on Sailing Kaya, we remove our very old and damaged teak handrails, use them as templates to build brand new ones. We also use mica powder to color the epoxy for the new rails. All the caps out. Gotta get the rail off. Oh, that's making a mess. We are tackling a project that we have been wanting to tackle for a long time, and that is replacing our 45-year-old teak handrails, which are in absolutely horrible shape. There's no real fixing these, no matter what we do to them. They're just too old. But so we're replacing these. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. When we started this channel, because we advocate for cancer and cancer patients, our intention was to always show a budget-friendly alternative of doing things. And in this case, we're actually replacing our handrails. Now you can buy these, but a 9-loop teak handrail runs about $200 to $250 if you bought it pre-made. Not something we want to do. So, dropping $500 on two teak handrails just doesn't make a lot of sense to us. We're not keeping a lot of teak on our boat. I do enjoy it when it's done, just not something we're doing. We tested out a lot of different things, and I'm actually going to use pine, which I know some people out there will say, oh, you can't use pine on a boat, you can't use pine outdoors, but that's actually incorrect. You can. All your old tall ships were built with pine. With pine, the key is how you prep it and how you protect it. I was a carpenter for many years, so building out of pine isn't a big deal. It literally just comes to how you're protecting it from the elements, from how you're waterproofing it, and how you're putting UV protection on it. Now, we want our handrails and all of our trim on the exterior of the boat is going to be a gray, because our boat is gray and white with some black accents inside in a few spots. So we want all of our teak on the exterior to be a really nice shade of gray. So in order to do that and protect the pine rails, I experimented with a couple different types of methods to do that. Now, we could certainly just varnish and multiple layers of varnish, and that can be done, and that can be done if you epoxy it first as well. Also looked at staining and then epoxying over top of the stain, which can be done, but it's tricky. You got to use a water-based stain, and when you do that, the stain really has to be dry. So you really have to let it dry for about 7 days. Excuse the motorcycle behind me, hold on a sec. So as I was saying, we experimented with a couple different things, and there's a few ways we can get that color out that we want, those grays. I really wanted to use a good epoxy and just really protect and waterproof the wood and seal it and not have to worry about it and keep it low maintenance. What we ended up doing and what we're going to do, so these are our old teak rails, which are just in horrible shape, and these, pull it back a little bit, is one of the new ones. I've done our starboard side, and I've gotten this cut and shaped and routed out, and I'm ready to do the finish on it. What we did was we experimented with the exterior stain and then epoxy, and then I also experimented with using a mica, a colored mica, to color the epoxy. I'm using a gray mica powder that I'm going to be putting in the epoxy, and then I'm going to layer probably 5 to 7 coats of epoxy into that new railing or new handrail with the pines. So that's where we're at. We'll see how it turns out. And of course, you know, we never recommend necessarily that this is the right way to do something or the way somebody else should do it. If you can do teak, if that's the look you want, if you want that traditional and you want to stay with that teak, absolutely, that is hands down the best thing you can put on your boat. However, for us, we were looking for an alternative. I wanted to experiment with something different than teak, and that's what this is. So again, not advice that we're saying you should follow, just want you to see what we've chosen to do. All right, so here is the finish and sanded new ones. And now it's just time to seal them and epoxy them. Mix up some of this gray mica and hopefully get the color that we're looking for. Go ahead and get a close up on these if I can. There we go. All right, mixing up some of this gray mica into our epoxy. Heading down to the west end of the beach to do some shark fishing tonight. And man, look how beautiful that is. That's just gorgeous. All right, made it down here to the west side of the beach and ready to do some shark fishing, baby. My buddy Kyle out here got his gear already set up, flying baits out with a drone so they can get out deep enough. So we'll see how we do tonight. A little windy. We'll make it work. the night ended up being way too windy and the sea's choppy, so we packed it up after only about an hour. But we are heading back out again in a few days when the conditions are better, so stay tuned for round 2. Regardless, it was an absolutely beautiful night. That is an interesting boat. Got out here the next morning to get these new rails installed and using butyl tape to get everything bedded down. Project turned out pretty good and the rails turned out better than we thought. All right, got our new rails on. And man, I'm happy with them. Not quite as gray as I wanted them to be, but good enough. Just can't get good sunlight. And the new rails are done. Now we just got to do the hatch boards. But all in all, pretty stoked. Love the look. There we go. Much better.